Let's make burnt Basque. You're going to need 4 eggs, large, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and you can sieve it as well to make sure there's no lump. 200 grams of granulated sugar, 330 milliliters of double cream or heavy cream in America, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, 678 grams of cream cheese. I went with the original Philadelphia. A small pinch of salt. In this one I'm using, I'm going to crush it down anyway, so if you can use kosher salt, that'd be nice. This recipe is for a 9-inch pan, but I'm going to be using a few different pans so everyone can try it. I've used parchment paper for the actual tin itself. This tin that I'm using is a 5-inch tin, and I basically got a roll of parchment paper and I split it into 2. It doesn't matter about the creases. It should be really nice for aesthetics, but just make sure that you get it right to the bottom of the pan so it looks pretty nice that way. So I've crushed my salt now. This is smoked salt, but you can choose whatever your preferences are. Add all your cream cheese to a stand mixer. Turn on stand mixer to medium-low, so it should look about this speed, because you don't want to get air bubbles into the actual cream itself. Add all sugar while still keeping it medium to low, and let that go for 3 minutes. Add 1 egg in at a time. Make sure it's all incorporated in before you add in the next one. Add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. Scrape down the sides of the bowls to make sure everything's incorporated, even towards the bottom, because you don't want everything to be lumpy. You want it to be smooth. As you can see, there's lumpy bits in here, and this is what you want to actually be beaten. So there's a lot of, it looks very nice at the top, but it hasn't incorporated fully. So you got to make sure this is smooth before you can even add in the flour. Turn stand mixer back on to medium-low, because you still don't want to incorporate air bubbles. We're going to be tapping the air bubbles at the end as well when it's into your tin pan. You can see clearly that the top layer looks really nice. Well, I suggest you go for another scrape down. And what we're doing is we're checking to make sure everything's incorporated from the bottom to the actual top as well. Now sieve some flour and then incorporate that into the batter and just mix for 30 seconds. Mix the flour on low for 30 seconds. And you want to do this until just combined. Give your bowl another scrape on the sides just to make sure that most of the flour is into the middle of the batter. Because next we're going to be putting in double cream, and then we're going to go for another scrape down just to make sure everything's incorporated, because we want it to be very smooth and silky. Switch on your stand mixer and put it down to very low and add in your double cream or heavy cream in American terms. Once this is near enough incorporated after 30 seconds, give it one more scrape down to make sure that there's no attributes into your batter, then it should be ready to go. Making sure that you always keep this on the lowest speed to make sure that there's no air bubbles. Even if there's a few air bubbles, that's okay, but you don't want it to be like a meringue and have loads of air bubbles. Scrape down the last bit of the cream that's been the last part being added. Make sure you just fill the bottom sides to make sure that it's completely nice and smooth. And then when you've done that, take off the bowl and then give it a couple of light taps to make sure there's no bubbles in there. Also do this when you're going to be adding this to the pan, which I'll give you an example. Turn on the stand mixer again and beat for another 20 to 30 seconds on medium to low, making sure you're not doing it on the high speed so you don't incorporate air bubbles, and also to make sure that this is a silky batter that you're making right now. So this is what your batter should look like, nice and smooth and silky, no and normally lumps in there, no air bubbles. And then obviously take the stand mixer off and give it a couple of light taps on to the counter, make sure it's okay. Now the actual beater right here, do not scrape that, because obviously it's not incorporated properly into the batter and it might have lumps and things that are not mixed properly, i.e. flour and cream and egg. So just leave that where that is, just remove that and leave your batter as it is, because that is perfectly silk. Give your batter 3 taps on the desk. Brace yourself, this is going to get really noisy and really loud, so if you've got headphones on, please, this is a warning. Making sure there's no air bubbles. Then put it into the pan and then give that a few taps, and then you're ready to put that in the oven. And that's how high it should be when you're looking at it. So this is parchment paper on the sides. It doesn't matter about that. It just matters about that it's actually inserted and you can get the Basque cake out. So that's what it would look like after I've tapped it onto the desk. Now just put it in the oven. And this is what your Basque cake should look like. As you can see, it's dropped down a little bit of concaving. That's what we're looking for. Nice little sides. It does wobble a little bit as well, So that's what you should be looking for. This is in a 5-inch tin, and I left this in the oven for 30 minutes. But you got to know your oven, so this is without even using a Bunsen burner or something like a flame that goes over the top, like a creme brulee. So I've just used my oven just to get this effect. So what you need to do as well is you got to leave this in the container to cool down. And once it's cooled down, then you got to put it in the fridge for several hours. I'm going to probably put this in for maybe 2.5 hours because it's a 5-inch tin. And if it was in a 9-inch tin, probably be 5 hours in the fridge. So there you have it. So here we are, this is the 6-inch version, and this is obviously the 5-inch version. So I wanted that one a little bit more darker than that one. So I want to see if there's anything difference in flavour. Obviously that's the caramelised bits. I want it too burnt, but yeah, this is how it comes out. This one took 46 minutes to get to that stage, and this one took around 32 minutes to that stage. And this one was on the same temperature as that one. It was around 218 to 220 degrees Celsius.